Deep in the Amazon rainforest, near where Colombia borders Brazil, is a hidden trove of biodiversity. Majestic waters and endless forests, a sacred territory managed and preserved by the communities of Yaigojé Apaporis, and their legitimate indigenous government that uses the values and principles of their ancestors to guide the protection of their life and this incredible place. But in a quest for gold and little regard for much else, this culturally and biologically diverse space is threatened by a growing trend that has its origins in Canada. In this particular case, we're talking about the junior mining company Cosigo Resources, who, in 2005, started speculative mining tours damaging the indigenous communities of the area. Cosigo may be seen as a small and unknown company in Canada, but in Latin America, they affect the integrity of the world's largest rainforest, since the Amazon is key for fighting climate change, providing water, and preserving life. In 2008, in response to the mounting pressure, a council of the local indigenous governments expressed their opposition to the project. It promoted the constitution of a protected area that shielded the territory from extractive activities. But the company didn't want to take a no for an answer, so they went to a summit in Bocas de Taraira in 2009 to persuade local authorities that the mining project should proceed. They conveniently didn't clarify to the community that the location of the mine they sought to develop would be the Yuisi, La Libertad, a deeply sacred site. To top it off, Cosigo began exploration activities without official approval. And although the Colombian state proceeded to create the Parque Nacional Natural Yaigojé Apaporis as requested, 2 days later the mining authority granted a contract for exploitation inside the new national park. Due to the active role of indigenous authorities, Cosigo was compelled by the Colombian Environmental Authority to stop all mining activity within the boundary of the national park in July 2011, and the court ultimately terminated the contract in November 2015 because it overlaps with the protected area. Following this, Cosigo Resources challenged the creation of the natural park, employing deceptive practices. However, the Colombian Constitutional Court ruled that the establishment of the national park is legal, and that all mining activity within its borders must cease. They even found sufficient evidence to ask authorities to evaluate the actions of Cosigo and initiate legal actions if necessary. What was the basis for such a decision? The court's June 2014 ruling presented evidence from several affected indigenous communities, showing Cosigo had acted in bad faith by dividing community members, offering money and economic projects in exchange for their support, and falsifying documents. They used strategies of confusion with the sole purpose of exploiting gold from sacred sites, and had gone so far as to disrupt the sacred site of La Libertad by exploring, drilling, and removing precious objects without the knowledge or permission of local indigenous people. Not taking the ruling as final, Cosigo submitted a notification of arbitration to the Colombian state and the Secretariat of the United Nations Commission on International Trade Law in 2016, demanding $16.5 billion US, 21.5 billion Canadian dollars in compensation, an amount that represents approximately 20% of Colombia's entire national budget. So, there's still a threat after many years and an incredible uphill battle to preserve a territory with outstanding ecological and cultural significance locally and to the whole world. And since Canada is home to most of the world's mining companies, it is necessary to highlight Canadian companies' misconduct so that others don't feel they can participate in corporate wrongdoing and bullying to skirt the rules and get their way. Canada and Canadians need to enforce and demand stronger regulations now. If you want to know more about this problem, visit the website handsoftheamazon.com.